So in verse 10, when it says his sons, the his is the king of the north. So the sons of the king of the north shall be stirred up. I'll give you the names of the two sons. Sorry, I've misread something. Let me just backtrack from here. I'm going to erase this. This verse here is actually dealing with two kings of the north. And I'll explain who they are in a minute. So we have the fifth and the sixth king of the north. And this is Antiochus the third. And then the king of the south is the fourth king, who was Ptolemy the fourth. Okay, I missed one of the kings out. So the sixth king, the fifth and the sixth are the two kings of the northern, of the king of the north, and then this is the fourth king of the south. Does that make sense? Do you understand the mistake that I made? Okay, so when it says his, it's talking about the king of the north, and the his was the king who is in verse 9. Okay, who was Seleucus II. Remember Seleucus II from verse 9? That's who the his is. And it says his sons. His two sons are Seleucus III and Antiochus III. Number 5 and number 6. It says two sons. And I've gathered everybody back together. It says his sons. The his was the king before, and it says his sons are the two sons now that I've written here. Number 5 and number 6. And they want to seek revenge on the king of the south. And what they do is, the next part of the verse says, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces. So they gather a great army, and they begin to aggressively pursue an expansion policy to finally destroy the king of the south. So that's their intention. Number 5, Seleucus III is king at the moment. Okay? But he reigns for a very short time. He only reigns for 2 to 3 years. Someone ask a question? Okay, he reigns for 2 to 3 years. And it tells you that in the verse itself. The next part of the verse after this, it says, but his sons shall be stirred up, he has two sons, and shall assemble a great multitude of forces. It says, and one of his sons shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. So although he has two sons, it says one of them is going to really finish the work off. And it's this son here, number 6, Antiochus III. And other people, he's actually known by Antiochus III the Great, because he was one of the greatest kings of the Seleucid Empire before his father Seleucus I. So the verse tells you that there were two sons before. One of those sons dies at an early age, or early into his reign, and the second son is the one who actually finishes off and really makes aggressive war against the king of the south. Now, if you went with the King James translation, you would not find that event in history, or you'd have to start manipulating history or getting other pieces of history and trying to push them into this prophecy to get them to fit. Does that make sense? Okay. Now in verse 9, if you remember verse 9, the king of the north made this attack upon the king of the south, but it was unsuccessful. So the king of the south held his territory. But now, one of his sons, Antiochus III, actually comes down and regains the territory that was lost a number of years ago. So he actually makes a successful counterattack against the king of the south, and now the territory of Palestine and Syria and portions right up to the coasts of Egypt are now being taken back by the king of the south. So you can still see that Israel is still conquered. Okay. It's reconquered by the king of the north. It says he shall overflow and pass through. The last part of the verse says this, then shall he return and be stirred up even to his fortress. Okay? After making this attack into Syria and coming right to the borders of Egypt, he then goes back for a while, and then it says he returns and comes back, and he comes right to the borders of Egypt, but he doesn't get past the borders. Okay? He just arrives to the border of Egypt in preparation to make his final assault and destroy the king of the south. Okay? That's the end of verse 10. Then we go into verse 11. Sorry? The second son was Antiochus the third. The first son was Seleucus the third, and the second son was Antiochus the third. Do I write the third? Yes. Okay. We're still in the fourth Syrian war, but now we're in the year 217. We were 219, 218, now I've come to 217. We're still in the third war, and it's still the two same kings, number 6 and number 4. We're in verse 11. This is Antiochus the third and Ptolemy the fourth. Still the same kings. Okay? And we've already read at the last part of the verse that the king of the north has come to the very borders of Egypt and has come to destroy Egypt. Okay? But verse 11, the theme for verse 11 is this. The king of the south defeats the king of the north. And for those who are interested, the name of the battle was the Battle of Raphia, which is in 217. And in this attack, he defeats the king of the south, and he also regains Palestine. So almost immediately afterwards, after the king of the north has taken that territory, the king of the south comes back and regains that territory. So let's read the verse. Verse 11 says, "And the king of the south shall be moved with choler, and shall come forth and fight with him, even with the king of the north, and he shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand." So this is a pretty straightforward verse. The king of the south shall be moved with choler. The king of the south is upset because the king of the north has come right to his very borders, and he says he shall come forth and fight with the king of the north, even with, it says even with the king of the north, and it says he shall set forth a great multitude. Now he who sets forth the great multitude is the king of the north. And it says this in the next part, the last part of the verse, "But the multitude shall be given into his hand." So the multitude is given into the hand of the king of the south, because the king of the north, Seleucus III, loses this war, this battle, and all his army is basically destroyed, given into the hand of him, the king of the south.
What does it mean, he shall set forth in respect?
What's the meaning of he shall set forth?
Yeah, set forth.
He shall collect, or he shall gather. He shall gather a great army. That was verse 11, really straightforward. Verse 12. Verse 12 is in with a history of 217 to 204. kings are the same, number 6 and number 4. So the king of the north and the king of the south. Antiochus the third and Ptolemy the fourth. Remember at the back end of verse 11, we know that Ptolemy wins this battle. He wins back the Palestinian area, but he doesn't make good his success. He could have pushed forward and really made havoc with the king of the north and won, but he allows the king of the north to escape. So the king of the north escapes back to his land, and the king of the south doesn't do anything about it. Okay? And because of that, this time period here is really the beginning of the decline of the Ptolemaic dynasty or the Ptolemaic Empire. After this, it really starts declining. So we're in verse 12, and the verse reads this. So the subject of this is the beginning of the decline of the king of the south. Sorry? Okay, the thing he didn't do, he'd won a major battle and he defeated his enemy soundly, but he didn't pursue the enemy to totally destroy him. He didn't make good of the whole job. He just left the job half undone. Something that we're often guilty of doing is doing half a job. Ellen White says if you only do half a job, it's better not to do the job. And in the terms of, it's used in the terms of evangelism actually. It's better not to do evangelism than do evangelism halfway. Because you lose souls. You always lose souls when you do that. Verse 12. Oh, we've read verse 12. Let's go through the details of it. It says this, and when he has taken away the multitude, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. So this is talking about what happens with the king of the south. So the first part of the verse says, when he hath taken away the multitude. So this is referring back to the king of the south when he destroyed the army of the king of the north. So the comment I've got here is after the decided defeat of Antiochus III in 217, and Antiochus is returned back to his homeland, Ptolemy IV really didn't do anything. He became self-assured and he did not bother pursuing him. Second part of the verse says, his heart shall be lifted up. Now this idea of being lifted up, he became proud and basically settled. There's a term in English which says they settle on their lees, which means you just sit down and you're just comfortable. There was no imminent attack now, so he just rests upon his laurels and does nothing. So he lives in vice and luxury. And then the next part of the verse says, and he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by it. So what happens in this history here is that, remember, he's taken control of Palestine now. Ptolemy IV has taken control of Palestine, and what he does is he goes on to persecute the Jews. So that's when it says here, he shall cast down many 10,000. This is really the first time in Daniel 11 when you see punishment coming upon God's people. And at Jerusalem, he came to Jerusalem and he's tried to enter into the most holy place of the temple. This is Ptolemy IV, the king of the south. And he was refused entrance into that by the priesthood there. This kind of refusal makes him angry, and then when he comes back to Egypt, he actually takes revenge upon Israel, and he massacres about 40 to 60,000 Jews in Alexandria. Alexandria was a centre for Judaism in Egypt at the time, and it was a centre of learning. That's where the Septuagint was, I think, actually even written, but it was stored there. It was a very great centre of learning. And if you learn anything about this thing, doesn't it sound very similar to the story of Esther? Because when you see, because of the obstinacy, if you can use that term, or the faithfulness, probably more accurate, of Mordecai, you see that Haman wants to destroy